Before we begin, I just wanted to share my morning meditation today. I was thinking about what is spiritual pleasure. Obviously, by reading some of these later texts by Srila Rupa Goswami, he's talking about the holy name, character, pastimes of Krishna are sweet like sugar candy. And in the purport, it was described how there are progressive stages of experiencing that pleasure that liberated souls uh, experience and share with us. And the path, the process is such that if one is following it, just like any recipe when you cook, you should get the proper result if you mix the ingredients and followed the instructions properly. So similarly, these discussions are an entrance and a path to the heart and intimate feelings of the individual and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom we have a eternal relationship with. So as that opens and blossoms and progresses, one should experience more and more pleasure as the path progresses and as we continue, despite all the difficulties one might have on this physical, in this material realm. So the bottom line is that we have to learn how to connect with our inner consciousness, which is even beyond our mind, our intelligence, and our false ego. And that's what this process does. So let us enter into it, following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. Now we're in May, lessons 1 and 2, still following the Upadeshamrita by Srila Rupa Goswami. Samapriya, can you pick a reader to begin us on this journey?
Okay. Mama Tara, would you like to begin? Hare Krishna, everyone. Nice to see you all here today. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Sure. Amrita, text 7. The holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue, and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. Purport. The holy name of Lord Krishna, his qualities, pastimes, and so forth, are all of the nature of absolute truth, beauty, and bliss. Naturally, they are very sweet, like sugar candy, which appeals to everyone. Nescience, however, is compared to the disease called jaundice, which is caused by bilious secretions. Attacked by jaundice, the tongue of the diseased person cannot palatably relish sugar candy. Rather, a person with jaundice considers something sweet to taste very bitter. Avidya, ignorance, simply perverts the ability to relish the transcendently palatable name, quality, form, and pastimes of Krishna. Despite this disease, if one with great care and attention takes to Krishna consciousness, chanting the holy name and hearing Krishna's transcendental pastimes, his ignorance will be destroyed, and his tongue enabled to taste the sweetness of the transcendental nature of Krishna and his paraphernalia. Such a recovery of spiritual health is possible only by the regular cultivation of Krishna consciousness.
Patsy, do you want her to read the next one, or should we discuss this
No,
first?
I think there's so much in
There's
that
so
one right
much.
there. She can
Okay.
take it
So,
away.
okay. Oh, great. I can ask one question. What about that word carefully?
Yeah,
Chanting
and here's the thing, I totally missed it.
You weren't careful.
I know I wasn't careful. That's crazy. But yeah, this is the essence of Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada said.
Yeah. The most
Chanting his
important
name.
order. of the spiritual master is to at least chant 16 rounds a day. That is
Right.
the most. Actually, there was a class in the temple this morning. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was quoting that, Srila Prabhupada saying that. So, and you know what I was thinking during this? What is the healthy condition? What is the healthy condition of the soul, Mama Tara?
Engagement in Krishna consciousness, engagement in Krishna service and serving devotees.
Right. So there's all of this prescription that's being given in these verses is because obviously we're not in a healthy condition,
Right.
a healthy and natural condition. It's natural for the soul to constantly glorify Krishna 24/7. So
Mhm.
anything you wanted to say, Patti? Or
Tisha has her hand raised. Let's hear
oh,
what she has
Tisha, I'm
to say.
sorry, darling. It didn't come up.
No, I just have a kind of a question. I think that some discouragement comes for me because, like I'm assuming when you have jaundice and you eat something sweet, it doesn't taste sweet until the jaundice goes away and then you get the sweetness back. Is that correct? Like there,
I have knowledge on that one.
you have jaundice?
I have had jaundice. I've lived in India, so I've certainly had jaundice a few times.
There's a litmus test there. You have jaundice. You're getting better because I guess the sugar candy starts to taste sweeter. But how do you know you're making progress here in,
Oh, how about the holy name tasting sweeter?
well, I mean, I don't know how to tell that. I don't know how to measure,
Are you some,
yes, measure your, how far along have I, like, where am I at on the path? Like, how do you measure?
good question. You know this book that we're reading now, Nectar of Instruction by Rupa Goswami? All these instructions in there, good, are to help us understand how we're making progress. If we find that these things we're developing a taste to hear Krishna, to chant and to hear about Krishna, if we're becoming enthused in our service, if this is becoming the only thing that we want in our lives, you could tell if something is like, well, it's nice now, but maybe something else. That's not fixed determination. You can tell by the things that are written actually in the Upadeshamrita, the Nectar of Devotion. You can judge by asking yourself, are these things happening to me? Am I becoming enthused to chant?
What are those things? That's what she's asking.
Oh, what are those things? Well,
What are some symptoms? What are some characteristics? What are some signs to look for?
Okay. What are some signs?
I have one that was actually physical when I first became a devotee. I grew up in a obviously meat eater family, and my father was a restaurateur, owned a restaurant, so I was around that a lot. When I joined Krishna Consciousness, I joined on a Radha Damodar bus. There was like 25, 30 brahmacharis lived on a bus, traveling around, going to the different colleges and chanting all day. So I did that for probably about 8 months and learned the philosophy and lived in the association of devotees, taking only prasadam, chanting every day. Then finally, we started to distribute magazines and go out onto the parking lots and lights and different places where people were. And I remember one time I went to a mall, it was a strip mall, and in that mall, there was a restaurant in the parking lot, a steak and ale. And when I smelled the food being cooked there, I actually retched. I almost vomited because of the smell of that meat. I hadn't smelled that. I hadn't been around it for months. So it was an actual physical experience where I could tell, wow, I'm actually transforming. I'm being purified. I no longer have that taste at all. I'm actually just, averse to it. It wasn't something pleasant at all that used to be pleasant. So it was a very stark, easy way to see how something that used to be pleasurable was no longer even attractive on any level whatsoever. So same thing with music, drinking, intoxications, so many different things, association, who you want to associate with, what you want to do with your time, what you look forward to, just on a very practical level. That's some of the things.
Actually, that was in the verse text number 3 or 4, 3, I think. Enthusiasm,
Right.
patience, and we discussed it last week, endeavoring with confidence. And how do we get confidence? How do we get confidence, Tisha, in this way of life? How do you get confidence?
I mean, from other association with other devotees that encourage you or help you or that you can question and they, can guide you, I guess.
Right, good. Hearing. You have to hear from someone who actually is convinced of this philosophy, who has it, who knows the truth. It says in Bhagavad Gita, the spiritual master, he knows the truth, so he can deliver the truth. You see? So you can tell if somebody is fixed in what they're doing and somebody loves what they're doing. Aside from that, we're all conditioned souls here. But the basic thing is to hear from the acharyas. Prabhupada has written so many books about this. Constantly hearing. That's our only ammunition to fight our minds, is to hear from the pure devotee. And this little book, Nectar of Instructions, it's so wonderful to go. I think Kelly Niketana was also expressing how wonderful it is to read this book again. It was one of the first books that we've all read in Krishna consciousness. This Sri Upanishad and the next book that we're recommending everyone read for the summer, also Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. These are masterpieces to control the mind. Hearing, constantly hearing, and of course determination to hear. Anyone else? Here we go. Okay, let's go down to the next section. Mamatar, why don't you finish up with this?
Continued. When a man in the material world takes more interest in the materialistic way of life than in Krishna consciousness, he is considered to be in a diseased condition. The normal condition is to remain an eternal servant of the Lord. Jivera Sarupa Haya Krishnera Nityadas. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, Chapter 20, Text 108. This healthy condition is lost when the living entity forgets Krishna due to being attracted by the external features of Krishna's Maya energy. This world of Maya is called Durasya, which means false or bad shelter. One who puts his faith in Durasraya. I'm sorry?
Durasraya.
One who puts his faith in Durasraya becomes a candidate for hoping against hope. In the material world, everyone is trying to become happy. And although their material attempts are baffled in every way, due to their nescience, they cannot understand their mistakes. People try to rectify one mistake by making another mistake. This is the way of the struggle for existence in the material world. If one in this condition is advised to take to Krishna consciousness and be happy, he does not accept such instructions.
Okay, read the first line again.
When a man in the material world takes more interest in the materialistic way of life than in Krishna consciousness, he is considered to be in a diseased condition.
Okay. First of all, we have to understand that, right?
Mm.
Do you feel like you're in a diseased condition in this material world?
Of course, but there's stages of it, right? Isn't it?
Well,
I mean, it makes sense that there's...
We're immersed, but there are stages to get. Yeah, there's stages. How covered up you are, but I think it's safe to say most of us in the material world are pretty covered up. When we talk about stages, the stages to get uncovered, right? And through this process is how we get uncovered.
Right.
So, anyone else have something to say? Welcome, everyone.
Well, that kind of goes back to our previous discussion, because Prabhupada was saying that if one takes more interest in the materialistic way of life. So, Tisha, you were asking, what are some symptoms? That's subjective to each individual and their attraction for the different things. Are those things that are attractive in the material world at least becoming somewhat less attractive compared to what the other things you're experiencing are bringing? Because this part here was also another important one. One who puts his faith in Durashraya becomes a candidate for hoping against hope, because everything in the material world, everyone's trying to become happy, although their material temps are always baffled due to their nescience. They can't understand their mistakes and try to they rectify one mistake by making another. It's a continuous experience, and they get a little bit of pleasure, and then the suffering comes, and then they try again, and it's just a constant the barrage of that experience.
Another thing is the more time we spend trying to adjust the situation here, that means we're getting more involved in it. Really. We have to understand that we are separate from this material world. And the first way you understand it is by hearing from someone who actually is separate, understands that he's separate. And that's what Srila Prabhupada does. We hear from the pure devotee that this is not where we belong. So sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's distressed, it's not going well. We don't use our energy to try to adjust so much. We accept the situation and then go on with our Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, we get seeped right in. Makes sense, Acharya? Acharya-ji?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you. And I'm sorry for being late. I was overcome by the mode of ignorance for a little while there. Sorry.
Hare Krishna.
I love that idea about trying to solve one mistake by another mistake that Prabhupada's mentioned. And there's an analogy Prabhupada makes that I always liked because it's a good analogy and it's a little funny also. He explains that if someone's possessed by a ghost, there's some traditional Vedic exorcism process. And part of that process is you take mustard seeds and throw the mustard seeds on the possessed person. And then Prabhupada explains, but what if the ghost has entered into the mustard seeds? Then by throwing the mustard seeds, you're not curing, you're actually making worse. So he says that's like material solutions to material problems.
Right. Well, yeah. And you can't solve anything like that. It's not just going to perpetuate itself. Manvantaraji. Can't hear you, sweetie. You're muted. Was she muted?
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
I was saying that I was thinking how Krishna takes this idea of surrender real seriously. We mentioned a couple of weeks ago how Draupadi, or maybe I was having a discussion with someone, when she didn't let go, when she let go, Krishna intervened. And it's this trying over and over and over again is especially when something is not working out and we're getting, like you said, lost in it more and more, trying to rectify a materialistic situation, how we get lost in that. And it's an act of control when you step back and look at it, this constant engagement, material energy, trying to, do things, what you think is proper anyway, and getting lost. It's an act of control. And so you have to let go in a way, but then you also have to have a balance of life because you have to act, you have to work. But the idea of working in Krishna consciousness, I don't think is very clear for most people. But yes, that Draupadi scenario is.
Let me ask you. You said that working in Krishna consciousness is not that clear. Well, how do you do it?
Well, I put like those Venn diagrams, always putting Krishna in the center, and wherever the diagram moves and intercede with someone else or some other situation, reevaluating and making sure Krishna is in the center.
Good girl.
So I just don't think a lot of people have that understanding. But it's a struggle for me as well. But I'm just saying, because it's easier to see someone else's situation than my own. But it's a constant struggle.
Yeah,
But
well,
I think
Sure.
surrender is really important.
Surrender. Sometimes we have to understand that Krishna wants us to come back to him just as much as we want to go, even more. Sometimes it's hard to understand that he is a person and he does not like to see the living entity suffering here. That's why he sends the pure devotee, the Yuga Dharma. He wants us to come back to him. He really, really does. So the situations that we find ourselves in the material world, which are horrible, that we suffer so much in this place over and over and over again. He actually creates them to bring us to a higher level. I gotta tell about the bird. Is it okay, Pati? Should I tell about not now? I'll tell about the bird later.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can show
okay.
it, just keep it so that.
I'll keep it. So, okay, we're going to the next person, Tisha. Tisha, you want to read?
Yes.
Okay.
Continued. Although Krishna consciousness may not be very palatable for a diseased person, Srila Rupa Goswami nonetheless advises that if one wants to be cured of the material disease, he must take to it with great care and attention. One begins his treatment by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, because by chanting this holy name of the Lord, a person in the material condition will be relieved from all misconceptions. Cheto Darpanamarjanam. Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya 2012. Avidya, a misconception about one's spiritual identity, provides the foundation for ahankar, or false ego, within the heart. The real disease is in the heart. If the mind is cleansed, however, if consciousness is cleansed, a person cannot be harmed by the material disease. If the mind is cleansed, however, if consciousness is cleansed, a person cannot be harmed by the material disease. To cleanse the mind and heart from all misconceptions, one should take to this chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This is both easy and beneficial. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, one is immediately freed from the blazing fire of material existence.
Okay, now I would just want to say something real quick. Sometimes people have a hard time chanting. If you hear that this is an instruction from your spiritual master, you take to it, even if you have a hard time with it. Because the first thing is to follow the order of the guru, because you have full faith that what he tells you to do is the perfect thing for your evolution, for your progress toward Krishna. So that gives a lot of people in the beginning a lot of strength. Just chant these names of God, because this will help you. And because it's coming from a self-realized soul, you have faith in it and you endeavor. I just needed to say that. Does it make sense to you, Tisha?
Yeah. Is the mind the same thing as consciousness, or did Prabhupada say those two words separately to, like, say they were something different than each other?
They are different. Someone want to say the difference? Pati, you want to say the difference?
Well, it's interesting that he's saying here, if the mind is cleansed, however, consciousness is cleansed. So they're interrelated extremely closely. But by introspection, you can understand the difference. There's a nice purport in the second canto of how a person can actually progressively meditate to understand it's easy to understand I'm not my hand, I'm not my skin, I'm not my body, then the mind, and try to understand how it works and understand that I'm actually observing it or watching it move. And then intelligence, even false ego, this whole concept of being a male, being American, this is all temporary. I can look at a picture of myself when I was a little boy and I don't have that anymore. So that's not, but where is me? So and your mind changes at every moment. So obviously mind and self are different because something's remaining the same, that sense of identity. So that's one place where you can go to see that mind and consciousness are different.
We heard someone say the other day that the mind is like a muscle. You know, it might be a subtle muscle.
It can be trained.
It can be trained, and consciousness, I think, is you use the mind to approach consciousness. Does that make sense? Did you have a question, Mama Tara? No. Are we all right?
Does that
So
answer
much
it, Tisha? Or still more to go?
Helpful. I hope I don't sound stupid or something.
not at all.
No,
Kinda.
I don't know. You sound
There's no
very
sense.
intelligent because you're inquiring about these things.
Yeah, no such thing as stupid and questioning.
Okay. Okay.
Keep
You go on to the
reading.
next one. Tisha.
Continued. There are 3 stages in chanting the holy name of the Lord: the offensive stage, the stage of lessening offenses, and the pure stage. When a neophyte takes to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, he generally commits many offenses. There are 10 basic offenses, and if the devotee avoids these, he can glimpse the next stage, which is situated between offensive chanting and pure chanting. When one attains the pure stage, he is immediately liberated. This is called Bhava Maha Davagni Nirvapanam. As soon as one is liberated from the blazing fire of material existence, he can relish the taste of transcendental life.
Okay, before you go on real quick, these words like Baba Mahadvagni Nivarpanam, there's a lot of reference to the first Shikshastika, Cheto Darpanam Archanam, all throughout this purport. Just wanted to say that's from the first Shikshastika.
Thank you. Yeah. If one is sincere, he is initiated, and this stage is called Bhajana Kriya. One then actually engages in the service of the Lord by regularly chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, 16 rounds daily, and refraining from illicit sex, intoxicants, meat eating, and gambling. By Bhajana Kriya, one attains freedom from the contamination of materialistic life. He no longer goes to a restaurant or hotel. Oh my God, I work in a hotel. To taste so-called palatable dishes made with meat and onions, nor does he care to smoke or drink tea or coffee. He not only refrains from illicit sex, but avoids sex life entirely, nor is he interested in wasting his time in speculating or gambling. In this way, it is to be understood that one is becoming cleansed of unwanted things, anartha nirvritti. The word anartha refers to unwanted things. Anarthas are vanquished when one becomes attached to Krishna consciousness, to the Krishna consciousness movement.
Just one thing for clarification. First of all, you don't go to your hotel for this to engage in these things.
Oh, that's true.
Sure. And second, in India, sometimes they call a restaurant a hotel.
Okay.
Okay. Anything you'd like to say about this report? Tisha?
No.
Anyone else? Go into more description of this, Patty?
Just to point out that the purport is describing how progress is made. That by following these processes, same thing as sort of a theme we're running on, a wave we're riding, is that these things become less and less attractive. Illicit sex, intoxicant, meat eating, by chanting, associating with devotees, following the first parts of the book, we can see that these things, anartha nivritti means become cleansing, and there's more parts to the step. So why don't we go on to those, Sama?
Okay, cool. All right, very good. Kaylee Niketana, how are you today, my darling? Are you there? She was there.
Hare Krishna. Yes,
Hare
I'm
Krishna.
Morning. How is everybody? Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Okay, why don't you read for us?
When a person is relieved from unwanted things, he becomes fixed in executing Krishna activities. Indeed, he becomes attached to such activities and experiences ecstasy in executing devotional service. This is called bhava, the preliminary awakening of dormant love of Godhead. Thus, the conditioned soul becomes free from material existence and loses interest in the bodily conception of life, including material opulence, material knowledge, and material attraction of all variety. At such a time, one can understand who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and what his Maya is. Although Maya may be present, it cannot disturb a devotee once he attains the bhava stage. This is because the devotee can see the real position of Maya. Maya means forgetfulness of Krishna, and forgetfulness of Krishna and Krishna consciousness stand side by side like light and shadow. If one remains a shadow, he cannot enjoy the facilities offered by light, and if one remains in light, he cannot be disturbed by the darkness of shadow. By taking the Krishna consciousness, one gradually becomes liberated and remains in light.
Okay. Well, do you experience that at all?
Yeah, I mean, this is like it's wonderful that we have these two things. It's not just like give up everything, but we have giving up, we have detachment and attachment to Krishna. So, um,
Right.
but I guess, yeah, about understanding Maya, it's interesting when it's put this way that Maya means forgetfulness of Krishna. But yet it's, Maya is also his energy. It's his own, like, my question is this like kind of where free will comes in? Like,
There you
we
go.
actually, okay.
Good observation. Yes, that's free will for sure.
It was also
And
good. I like that point that it's not just a lot of restrictions.
yeah,
It's filling. The example used to be a lot in the movement where if you have a bottle of ink, which is like the dirty things in the heart, and you start to pour milk into the bottle, then gradually the more you pour the milk, then finally the ink overflows and just the bottle keep pouring the milk. Finally, it comes to the point where there's very little ink and it's all milk. So that was a good point. It's not just that we don't do things, we're actually being given and experiencing something a higher pleasure, that verse.
yeah,
Dr.
Yeah, and it
Murari? Oh,
naturally,
sorry.
oh no, I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say that it naturally in my process that it just these unwanted things, these anarthanas, they kind of go away naturally. Like you fight with
Yeah.
these things, you fight with the mind, but it's much easier because we have, we're on Team Krishna and we have Krishna to help us get
good.
through these things. And it's more of a natural process of letting go. It doesn't seem so painful and difficult.
Because it's natural to have desires and it's natural to love and it's natural to be attracted to something. You're just putting the right thing to be attracted to. You know, Maya means that you're not putting all of these propensities of the soul in the direction of Krishna. Make sense?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thakur, would you like to? How are you, my darling? Would you like to read?
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thanks again for the sangha. So, I think the theme of the Back to Godhead is light and Nishan's is darkness. So, where there is Godhead, there's no Nishan's or Niscience, or when it's pronounced. Also, the short story about trying to suppress the story about the wind and the sun. They had a bit who would try to take the person, allow the person to take off, get the person to take off his coat. So suppression, they realize, as you said, we can suppression desires is going to give us some problems. So it's a matter of exchanging for a higher taste.
Good.
Yes, and I like this situation where the light and the darkness are, is there. Both of them are there. So once one is the light, one will be affected by the darkness.
Looks
Very
like you're
good.
meditating on Lord Nrsingadev today.
Yes, I had some
Very
nice
nice.
compliments of your temple there. I got some nice pictures, so I said, let me put a nice little one there. So,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Bhagavan. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's go to the next slide. And Kaylee, you want to continue? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Anyway, continue.
Yeah.
Kaylee Nikaitina, are you there? I think she walked away. Okay, she walked away. Kaylee, one more time. Are you there right now? You want to read? Okay, she walked away. Let's go. Madhurya Leela. Madhurya Ji, are you there? It would take some time to get there.
Yes, very well.
Oh, how are you?
Okay, how are you?
Good. Why don't you read?
Pradeshamitra, text 8. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraja, Goloka Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. Since the mind may be one's enemy or one's friend, one has to train the mind to become his friend. The Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for training the mind to be always engaged in Krishna's business. The mind contains hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only of this life, but also of many, many lives in the past. These impressions sometimes come in contact with one another and produce contradictory pictures. In this way, the mind's function can become dangerous for a conditioned soul. Students of psychology are aware of the mind's various psychological changes. In Bhagavad Gita 8:6, it is said, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail.
Continue reading.
At that time of death, the mind and intelligence of a living entity create the subtle form of a certain type of body for the next life. If the mind suddenly thinks of something not very congenial, one has to take a corresponding birth in the next life. On the other hand, if one thinks of Krishna at the time of death, he can be transferred to the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. This process of transmigration is very subtle. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami advises devotees to train their minds in order that they will be unable to remember anything other than Krishna. Similarly, the tongue should be trained to speak only of Krishna and to taste only Krishna Prasad. Srila Rupa Goswami further advises Tishtan Braje. One should live in Vrindavan or any part of Vrajabhumi. Vrajabhumi, or the land of Vrindavan, is supposed to be 84 kroshas in area. 1 krosha equals 2 square miles. When one makes Vrindavan his residence, he should take shelter of an advanced devotee there. In this way, one should always think of Krishna and his pastimes consciousness. One, I don't know, there's something wrong there. One gradually becomes liberated and remains in light. This is the future. This is further elucidated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.294. A devotee should always reside in the transcendental realm of Braja and always engage in Krishnam Smaranam Janam Chasya Brishtam, the remembrance of Sri Krishna and his beloved associates. By following in the footsteps of such associates and by entering under their eternal guidance, one can acquire an intense desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Just leave up this text, Patti. I have some questions for you. First of all, what if you can't live in Vrindavan? What if you're not in Vrindavan?
You have to create Vrindavan around you, wherever you live, wherever you're serving and absorbed in the process of Krishna consciousness as given by Srila Prabhupada and chanting, and so that is Vrindavan. But it's still nice to be in the real Vrindavan.
It's nice to be there, but there's so many
Yeah.
devotees all over the world. So there's a place in the heart called Antara Kaj.
Right.
So then, yeah.
Well, it's a state of consciousness. So you can be physically in Vrindavan, but not be in Vrindavan
We've experienced
mentally,
that, sure.
So I know it's a state of consciousness, but it's still nice to be there.
Right. That I agree. And Patti, unmute.
It's actually being recommended. This is Rupa Goswami, and he's saying that one should live in Braj. And the reason is that the whole culture, for those of us who have been there, the whole culture of the people is geared toward this. Like here in America or whatever country of the world you're in, the culture of that environment and civilization influences its people in a certain way. So if you go to a holy place, practically any of them, but specifically we're headed here to Vrindavan, Govardhan, Radhakund. If you go there, then the people are always dressed like devotees. They're thinking of Krishna. The signs are Krishna trucking, Krishna restaurant, Radha jewelry store. Everybody's saying Radhe Radhe, Hare Krishna, Gopal. You see cows, you see people circumambulating Govardhan Hill, you bathe in Radhakund. These things naturally absorb one. Here, it's a bit of an uphill struggle, but by Srila Prabhupada's divine arrangement, he's created a society. We're so fortunate, at least here in Alachua, there's a lot of devotees. Yesterday, we went shopping, and we saw probably 10 devotees in 2 hours.
Trader Joe's. Very
So,
good.
Anyway,
Also, I had another question at the beginning of the purport. It sounds like Prabhupada is talking about using all the senses for Krishna. And that's how we protect ourselves from thinking of something else aside from Krishna at the time of death. I think someone also mentioned it, that we have to, maybe it was Manvantara or Tisha, that we have to, if we see everything in relation, Manvantar, when we see everything in relation to Krishna, that use all our senses for Krishna, that protects us. We start to think in terms of, Krishna is very much a part of what's going on here in my life, everything, and you train yourself to see everything in terms of Krishna, see Krishna, and engage our senses according to Krishna.
Sama, for this next slide, can you adjust so that Acharya reads it?
Okay, well, Acharya, why don't you read it?
It's one of the most important, my favorite verses. Love this one.
This one and the second one. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Continued. Again, Srila Rupa Goswami states in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-2-295, Seva sadhaka rupena, siddha rupena chatrahi, tadbhava lipsuna karya, vraja lokanusarata. In the transcendental realm of Vrajadam, one should serve the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna with a feeling similar to that of his associates, and one should place himself under the direct guidance of a particular associate of Krishna and should follow in his footsteps. This method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices executed while in the stage of bondage, and in the stage of sadhya, God realization, when one is a siddha purusha or spiritually perfect soul.
Do you want him to read the next part before
Give
commenting?
a little purport on that one.
Give a little, it's such a light verse.
Yeah, this is way beyond me. Just that that in the practice, one thing I'll say, in the practice stage and in the perfect stage, in both of them, you're not independent. You're under the shelter of a senior Vaishnava, both in the practice stage and in the perfect stage also. Of course, here it's talking about a really advanced stage when you're actually taking shelter of a residence of Vrindavan. But that principle is always there, that you're under your a devotee always feels like he's in training,
Nice
like he's
point.
under the guidance of a devotee.
Patty, also, why don't you say something about this? Because
But
I
other
can
than that,
vouch.
this is way beyond me.
Okay, okay. What I
Patty,
like to
you
do,
say something.
yeah, if you go into the verse like almost word for word,
Hmm.
the meaning is super beautiful. Seva sadhaka rupena means one should, sadhaka means the body being described here, spiritual practice. We're sadhakas. So one should perform seva in a form of a sadhaka, following the rules and regulations, other people seeing other devotees as devotees and understanding that nature. But there's an internal step when it says siddha rupena chatrahi. Chatrahi means meditation. One should meditate on his spiritual, eternal self. And even if it's not exactly clear what the details of that form and personality are, we can certainly connect with an inner consciousness that is eternal. We've been studying this for however long we've been devotees, understanding we're not this body. Well, if we're not this body, what are we? So Siddha Rupena Chatrahi says acting as a sadhaka, but meditating on one's eternal self. Tadbhava lupsana karya. Lupsana karya means following with emotions. Vraj loke anusarata. Vraj loka, the people who live in Braj, anusarata, following them. So one should meditate on his or her eternal spiritual body, following and learning about and trying to understand the associates of Krishna and following in their footsteps.
So going back to the want to meditate on his or her eternal spiritual body, we can safely begin by understanding that we're the servants of Krishna.
Yes, good, excellent.
That's a very safe place to begin, and then things will be revealed from that platform.
Very good.
And there's also a Brijabasi that we can take shelter of, and that's Srila Prabhupada also,
Yes.
which is also a safe thing. And he's
Yes.
also a resident of Vrindavan that we can take
Yes.
shelter of and
Very
follow and get guidance.
Nice. It also said this method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana and in the stage of sadhya. One thing I want to point out here then, you just brought that up, nice, both of you, that we have to follow a Brijbasi or someone who's coming from that plane. So when we explained that we're going to be taking some time off, so because we want to do the rasa dance at the time of the autumn season so that it'll be influential in that aspect, Tisha asked us, what can she read during the summer that would help prepare her for that study? And Sama and I, as we were discussing it, realized that the teachings of Lord Chaitanya are a beautiful book to study, which leads me to the next step. I found a beautiful lecture that I'll put online tomorrow, where Srila Prabhupada is explaining that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, and he's advented just after Krishna's advent so that he can teach how to love Krishna like his associates did. So this verse, which is Rupa Goswami's explanation of how to do that, is right in line with all of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. So,
in fact, isn't Narottam Das Thakur, I think, says that if you try to understand the pastimes of Radha Krishna without going through Mahaprabhu and the six Goswamis, then you can't understand.
Yeah, you have to hear it from Lord. It just was like a light bulb moment when Tisha asked that question, how anything I should read to prepare for this, the rasa dance, the most exalted thing. So all of us are sadhaka, and this is our sadhaka, to hear from Srila Prabhupada about the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That's our safe boat. Perfect. Very wonderful.
Yeah. I also like your recommendation to read Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. I'll confess I actually haven't read it in I don't even know how many years.
Yeah.
But it, it's almost like Krishna book synthesizes the 10th canto.
Yeah.
Teachings of Lord Chaitanya also sort of synthesizes
perfect example.
Chaitanya Charitamrita and the teachings of Mahaprabhu. So that's actually really good advice, and
Perfect.
maybe I could put that on my reading list.
Maybe. Please do.
Well, maybe because I
Worth
don't always,
it.
I have to say maybe, to be honest, because I don't always follow through with my plans,
Okay. Well,
but I'll
yeah.
try.
Okay. I started reading it again. It's beautiful. So it's just, these books that Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita, Sri Upanishad, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. These are books that Prabhupada, these are the first books aside from Bhagavad Gita. This is what he gave us first. And it's so refreshing and enlivening to read them again. It's, everyone is going to become very happy reading these
Yeah.
books. It gives you a lot of hope. A lot of hope.
I don't want to drag this on, but that
Okay.
reminded me. I just wanted to say one more thing about the choice of the books that Prabhupada chose to give us is so, just even like this Upadeshamrita, that was a choice he made,
Yeah.
that this is a book that, I have to give the devotees. And just the choice of the particular ones he chose to translate and give to us is like, it's so intelligent of him and so brilliant and so practical for understanding Krishna consciousness from the very beginning up to
Yeah.
the very highest
Yeah.
state. So I just wanted to throw that in too.
Good. And also, even reading in the beginning and reading the same book now, it's not because it's eternal spiritual knowledge. It's not that, oh, I read that before. No. It's like, whoa, I'm reading this. It's like ever increasing. It's just so wonderful. Thakur, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just quickly on the teachings of
Not
Lord
quickly,
Chaitanya.
slow down. Please speak slowly because I
I'm-
want to hear
I'm
every
sorry,
precious
I'm sorry.
word.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
So
so
recently I had a chance to listen to an audio presentation of the books, and I listened to the teaching of Lord Chaitanya, but I had read it some time back, but it was so much a long time ago. And it was quite refreshing to hear some parts I read before and how it all came together. So it's a nice choice there. And I must confess that I listened to it recently. About 4 chapters are there.
Thakur
Yes,
Murari, I was going to try to do some research to find a good audio book. Whose did you listen to? Who was the reader?
I think I'm not sure who was the reader.
Amala Bhakta, was it Amala Bhakta?
I'm not sure who's reading I
Okay,
heard.
I just thought you might know. No problem. We'll go on. No, I can look it up.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you. Yeah, good idea.
yes.
Oh, also, Patti, you want to tell everybody that you're going to post it tomorrow, all the information that you find out about which book to get, because there's people wondering now.
Huh. Yeah. My idea is that instead of posting a lesson tomorrow, which is a Sunday post, I'll put links to Teachings of Lord Chaitanya where you can buy the hard book, where you can get an EPUB version of it for a device if you use something other than a computer, and then a PDF file if you want that, and try to find an audio version of it as well.
Okay, good.
And
So,
also set up a forum, so if there are any questions or comments or people want to share
That's
anything
cool.
during the summer months, then we can all do that via that forum the way we always do.
That would be so cool. Wonderful. Okay, are we going on? I think, Acharya, were you still reading? I think he got up. Everyone's getting up. Wait a sec. He did get up. Acharya, why don't you continue reading? You didn't read this. You only read one slide, right? I don't know where he went now. Oh, you're muted. I don't think he's reading. Okay, Nanda can't read. Do you want to read now? Because you were going to read this slide, Acharya. You have to unmute if you want to read. There you go.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. My connection dropped for a second there.
Sorry. Go on.
I'll continue. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Shravana Dasha, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and hearing of his transcendental form, qualities, and pastimes, one can attain to the stage of acceptance called Varana Dasha. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. When one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smarana Vashta, the stage of remembering. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smarana. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti. By uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters the stage of samadhi or spiritual trance. After smarana dasha or samadhi has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his original constitutional position. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. That is called Sampati Dasha, the perfection of life.
Goodness. All right, tell us about that.
I just said this is something Srila Rupa Goswami likes to do, and a lot of acharyas like to do, is to analyze like stages of progression, just like earlier Prabhupada was talking about Ado Shraddha and Sadhu Sangha and Bhajana Kriya.
Yeah.
So this is another, sort of stage by stage analysis of the deepening of how to remember, how to chant Hare Krishna and how to remember Krishna in different stages progressing. And it just reminds me in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Madhurya Kadamini, he describes this also, saying how in the very beginning, your mind is practically 100% in material consciousness, but occasionally, rarely, you might attain some remembrance of Krishna. Then he describes how stage by stage, okay, then you're mostly material consciousness, but you're endeavoring more and more to remember Krishna. And then eventually the balance tips, and you're mostly remembering Krishna with occasional entrances of material consciousness. And then you're almost always remembering Krishna, and just occasionally there's a little entrance of material consciousness. And then finally, you're in full uninterrupted Krishna consciousness. So it's a progression, it's stages, and I don't know what the names of these different stages are and what they
We
mean.
just passed them.
Into it.
Bhajana Kriya and
No, I mean this Shravana Dasha and
Yeah.
all of that. I don't really know what those are, but I like this way of analyzing the different stages of how well and how constantly you're remembering Krishna.
yeah,
That was perfect.
and yeah,
That was a very nice, I think that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur must have kind of expanded on this same concept that Rupa Goswami is presenting here
Yes.
by writing Madhurya Kandambini.
also Bhaktivinoda in Bhadra Mahasya refers to the same process. Just want to, before Tisha and Thakur speak, I want to stress again how important association of devotees is, because if we're progressing and we encourage each other to progress like this, it's so important to hear together, to read together, to encourage each other. Very important. Whereas, and Rupa Goswami also says in Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, to associate with non-devotees and to give them the same attention, it's not, you're not going to achieve the same purpose. You're not going to achieve Krishna by sharing this kind of growing with non-devotees. But we share it together with devotees, like when we read like this and we churn it, it's wonderful for everyone. Okay. Tisha, and then Takur.
No, what I was going to say is just the way Acharya just explained kind of the tipping point and progressively moving, and Durva explaining pouring the milk in the ink bottle. That really helps me understand, I guess like the test, the litmus test to see how you're progressing in Krishna consciousness. If you just say, how often do I remember Krishna during, am I reaching the point, even getting close? But so that part of the conversation with all of you helped me ease my mind about not progressing in a fast enough way, like so.
Yeah, you guys, it's fast. It's from the demigod's point of view, we're going full force ahead. Like when you see little ants running around, we're doing pretty good. Hearing from Prabhupada, but this is coming along. This is from Nanda. Oh, okay. Oh, she says she has 3 new hard copies of Nectar of. I don't know. I passed them. Anyway, okay, Takur.
What, since you were on it, what did you say? I didn't see, what did she have?
I don't know. Nanda said she has something here. We can go on the chat. And she said, I have 3 new hard copies of Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. If local people are interested, and maybe more, but I only have 3 right now. So if you want to read it on a book, Nanda's got the books, and she knows where to get them. So I would suggest that. I love myself having books. I like books rather than the modern day method. Okay. Devices, that's right.
Tucker.
You have to unmute, Tucker.
Yes. So the where I got the book from is the Bhaktivedanta Vedic Library. So you go on the site and you show other books and you find teaching of Lord Chaitanya, and you can download either chapters or just download. While listening, you could download and it loads,
You download
chapter.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah. So it's
Pati,
I'm
you
not
have to
sure
unmute, Pati.
Thank you. I'll put that up for everyone. Thank you, Tucker.
Yes. Bhaktivedanta Vedic Library.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And you go other books.
It doesn't seem like this is going to be hard to get.
No.
Yeah,
No.
that's cool. And that means Krishna's saying, read it. Yes, read it. Go for it by the end of the summer. It's great summer reading. It's beautiful. Okay, now we're going to go on with Tisha. Why don't you read? And then Manvantara.
I read already. Is it my turn again?
Yeah, we're going. Some people are not, can't read today.
Upa Desamrit, text 9. The holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. Superior to Mathura, Puri is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan because of Krishna's Rasa Leela pastimes. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, for it was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna and was the site of his various loving pastimes. And above all, the super excellent Sri Radha Kund stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarian prema of the Lord of Gokula, Sri Krishna. Woo.
You want to read that sentence again?
Please.
Okay, read that sentence again.
Above all, the super excellent Sri Radha Kund stands supreme, for it is overflooded with this ambrosial nectarian prema of the Lord of Gokula, Sri Krishna. Where then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radha Kund, which is situated at the foot of the Govardhan Hill? Wow, purport by Srila Prabhupada. The spiritual world is 3/4 of the total creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it is the most exalted region. The spiritual world is naturally superior to the material world. However, Mathura and the adjoining areas, although appearing in the material world, are considered superior to the spiritual world because the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself appeared in Mathura. The interior forests of Vrindavan are considered superior to Mathura because of the presence of the 12 forests, Dwadashavana, such as Talavan, Madhuvan, and Bahulavan, which are famous for the various pastimes of the Lord. Thus, the interior Vrindavan forest is considered superior to Mathura, but superior to these forests is the divine Govardhan Hill, because Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill with an umbrella.
Like an umbrella. Like an umbrella.
Oh, like an umbrella. I was like, what? Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill like an umbrella, raising it with his lotus-like beautiful hand to protect his associates, the denizens of Braj, from the torrential rain sent by the angry Indra, king of the demigods.
Oh, go on.
It is also at Govardhan Hill that Krishna tends the cows with his cowherd friends, and there also he had his rendezvous with his most beloved Sri Radha and engaged in loving pastimes with her. Radha Kund at the foot of Govardhan is superior to all because it is there that love of Krishna overflows. Mm-hmm. Advanced devotees prefer to reside at Radha Kund because this place is the site of many memories of the eternal loving affairs between Krishna and Radharani, Rati Vilas.
Betsy, did you have a...
Yes, this is actually a movie. Tell me if you, let me know if you can't hear it. Can you hear it? Radha Kund and Shyamakund. Radha Kund.
Wow. I just thought it would be really nice for all of us to go together to Radha Kund. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Any comments on this? Sign me up. Okay.
Is there always so many buildings around it? I mean, in my mind, when I was thinking about what it would look like, it definitely had grassy banks and not.
Right. Oh, where were you 50 years ago?
Did it used to be that way?
No, not during our lifetime.
What we saw, it's much
around
more
Radha Kund that there was grass and trees.
Well, a little bit.
Very little.
It's much more built up now. But around the immediate Radha Kund, there's temples there and things are built. But just a few steps outside on the outskirts, then it's more grassy. But everyone wants to go to Radha Kund. That's why they build places for them to stay there. Any comments on this?
Thakur Murari?
Oh, Thakur?
Yeah, quickly.
No. Slowly.
What is the name of it?
Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay. So in the mornings, yes, the prayers that we say after what's the name again, Prabhu? After you have the kirtan in the mornings. Prayers that Mangal, yes. You just said after. It is said after Guru Puja, and even when you're having classes. I don't know what's the name of it, but those set of prayers that you have, when you talk about Radha Kund, Shaman Kund, give you.
The Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Bharatachari, the Jayam prayers.
Okay. where I realize that Radha Kund is mentioned. Sharma Kund, Radha Kund.
Yes.
So now I'm thinking it's important because it's mentioned in that the set of prayers, and we know that why it's here. So Sharma Kund, Radha Kund, but because Radha and Krishna has loving affairs in the Radha Kund, and it becomes, the topmost place to go. And it's interesting to see what it was some years back as to what it is now. But we understand our consciousness has to be there to realize that, yes, don't be too hung up with present, appearance, but the consciousness is there. So, yeah, thanks much. That's my little
Yes.
tip.
All right.
Yeah.
In meditation.
Yes, we have to be there in meditation if we're not there physically. And as we said before, Madhurya Leela was saying, sometimes we find ourselves in the Holy Dham and we're thinking of something that happened in Brooklyn, New York. What is that? So the mind is, you have to control the mind by keeping Krishna there and cultivating the Dham in the heart. Because we never know where Krishna is going to put us. But a devotee wants to at least sometimes reside in the Dham and at Radha Kund. It's very recommended to go to Radha Kund. Take water on your head. Even we all have taken dips in Radha Kund. It develops love for Krishna immediately. I found myself in Radha Kund, if I can say real quick, last time we were there, I started praying for everyone that I knew. I felt like I got Radharani's mercy because I was praying for all the devotees in Alachua and everyone who we contact. It was wonderful to pray for the welfare of others. It's just wonderful.
I
Brings
think
out
that
the best.
I think that probably these next verses, some we don't need so much commentary.
Okay, we won't
they're
do
full
any.
in themselves, and
Okay.
that'll give us time to finish up.
Okay, so Mandatari, you want to read? And then Kaylee and Niketan.
Real quickly, because I know we're trying to finish up, but the teachings of Lord Chaitanya that I'm referring to, there's two books called Teaching of Lord Chaitanya's. The one that I have is a small book similar to this, but it's a little tad smaller than this, and it's blue.
Yeah, it's
the
okay.
current book that we're reading.
They're both the same books, but they're just edited and laid out and
Gotcha.
published
Okay, got it.
differently. You got the
Okay,
yellow
got it.
one and the blue one.
I appreciate that. Mine the one that I have is a blue one that's a little smaller than the book that we're reading from right now.
Real dark blue.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that's the same one.
It's the
And
same
then,
one.
and then
Okay.
there's another one that's a real big yellow one. That's the same book, but it's just published differently.
Okay,
Just
got
like they
it.
have the old Bhagavatams and those little black ones.
Oh, okay. Thanks
Okay.
for the feedback because I was, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
You going to read Mandatara?
In Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, it is stated that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first visited the area of Rajabhumi, he could not at first find the location of Radha Kund. This means that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was actually searching for the exact location of Radha Kund. Finally, he found the holy spot, and there was a small pond there. He took his bath in that small pond and told his devotees that the actual Radha Kund was situated there. Later, the pond was excavated by Lord Chaitanya's devotees, headed first by the 6 Goswamis, such as Rupa and Raghunath Das. Presently, there is a large lake known as Radha Kund there. Sri Rupa Goswami has given much stress to Radha Kund because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire to find it. Who then would give up Radha Kund and try to reside elsewhere? No person with transcendental intelligence would do so. The importance of Radha Kund, however, cannot be realized by other Vaishnava Sampradayas, nor can persons uninterested in the devotional service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understand the spiritual importance and divine nature of Radha Kund. Thus, Radha Kund is mainly worshipped by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the followers of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
You know what? I just remember that the Thakur didn't read at all. So I'm going to have him read the next one. Did you want to say something about this Mandatara, this one that you just read? Oh, we're not supposed to.
No.
Okay.
Thank
It's
you,
clear.
though.
Okay. Thakur, you want to read? I'm sorry that I because we were discussing.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Oh yes, it's okay. Continued. Is it on? It should be another slide.
No, wait a
Okay.
minute. We didn't finish
Yeah.
we didn't finish the other one, did we?
Yeah, this one. Yeah, this one is one that was read previously.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the other slide. So Upodeshamrita, text 10. In the Shastra, it is said that of 4 types of fruitive workers, he who is advancing knowledge of the higher values of life is favored by the Supreme Lord Hari. Although many such people who are advanced in knowledge, Gyanis, one who is practically liberated by virtue of his knowledge, may take to devotional service, is superior to the others. However, one who has actually attained Prem, pure love of Krishna, is superior to him. The gopis are exalted above all the advanced devotees because they are always totally dependent upon Sri Krishna, the transcendental court boy. Among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna. Her Kunda lake is as profoundly dear to Lord Krishna as this most beloved of his gopis, who then will not reside at Radhakund and in a spiritual body surcharged with ecstatic devotion feelings, apapita abhava. Render loving service to the divine couple Sri Radha Govinda, who perform there Astaka Kaliya Leela, the eternal eightfold daily pastimes. Indeed, those who execute devotion service on the banks of Radhakund are the most fortunate people in the universe. Srila Prabhupada's purport. On this planet, we find many businessmen, politicians, and others who are simply interested in material happiness. They attempt to earn money by all means, not considering whether such means are pious or impious. Such people are called karmis or gross materialists. Among the karmis are some vikarmis, people who act without the guidance of Vedic knowledge. Those who act on the basis of Vedic knowledge perform sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Lord Vishnu and to receive benedictions from him. In this way, they are elevated to higher planetary systems. Such karmis are superior to the karmis, for they are faithful to the direction of the Vedas and are certainly dear to Krishna.
Wow. Okay. You want to continue reading?
Yes, okay, so continued. Out of thousands and even millions of ignorant people who are wasting their time simply gratifying their senses, one may come to the platform of knowledge and understand higher values of life. Such a person is called a Jnani. The Jnani knows that fruitive activities will bind him to material existence and cause him to transmigrate from one kind of body to another. As indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam by the term Sarira Bandha, born to bodily existence, as long as one maintains any conception of sense enjoyment, his mind will be absorbing karma, fruitive activity, and this will oblige him to transmigrate from one body to another. The Jnani is considered superior to a karmi because he at least refrains from the blind activities of sense enjoyment. When a Jnani takes to devotional service, he rapidly becomes superior to an ordinary Jnani. Such an advanced person is described as Jnana Vimukta Bhakti Parama. How a Jnani takes to devotional service is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 7:19, when Krishna says, after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. After taking to devotional service under the regulative principles, a person may come to the platform of spontaneous love of Godhead, following in the footsteps of great devotees like Narada and Sanaka and Sanatan. The supreme personality of Godhead then recognizes him to be superior. Devotees who have developed love of Godhead are certainly in an exalted position. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, let's just I just want to ask if anyone has something to add to this. I mean, not add or comment on in these slides. Last two. No? Okay.
Also, just quickly,
Yes.
yeah, we talk karmis and vikarmis and gyanis and gyanis, or the gyani or the gyani who has Vedic knowledge. So realize that even one is involved in gyan, the idea that one is engaged in Vedic knowledge makes a difference. As you say, when one is, one comes from that perspective, then the person advances.
Yeah,
In
definitely.
that sense.
There's a
Yes.
story that one of the devotees here that was with Srila Prabhupada in the early days when he went to India, Achyutananda, told us the story that when Achyutananda, who was from New York, first arrived in India with Srila Prabhupada, they were in Calcutta, and there was the worship of Durga going on. And in worship of Durga, they kill goats as offerings of sacrifice. So he asked Srila Prabhupada, between these people who are killing and offering it to the deity and the Christians in the West, who is more advanced? And Srila Prabhupada said, these people are more advanced because they're following the Vedic system and therefore will be gradually elevated in that system.
Very good.
So that kind of goes along with what you were talking about. It's a system of elevation for humanity.
Wow.
The Vedic rites and rules, whatever they are, from the bottom to the top. That's what this whole purport, the whole verse, is just like we were talking about progressive devotional activities. That was like an overview of the whole human society, practically, all the way up from fruitive workers to Astakaliya Lila in one verse.
So I don't think we really understand the treasure that we're dealing with here.
Nice.
It's amazing.
True.
Okay, Kelly Niketana, would you like to read this? This is the last verse of the Upadeshamrita.
Upadeshamrita, text 11. Of the many objects of favor, delight, and of all the lovable damsels of Rajbhumi, Srimati Radharani is certainly the most treasured object of Krishna's love, and in every respect her divine Kunda is described by great sages as similarly dear to him. Undoubtedly, Radha Kund is very rarely attained even by the great devotees. Therefore, it is even more difficult for ordinary devotees to attain. If one simply bathes once within those holy waters, one's pure love of Krishna is fully aroused. Why is Radhakund so exalted? The lake is so exalted because it belongs to Srimati Radharani, who is the most beloved object of Sri Krishna. Among all the gopis, she is the most beloved. Similarly, her lake, Sri Radhakund, is also described by great sages as the lake that is as dear to Krishna as Radha herself. Indeed, Krishna's love for Radhakund and Srimati Radharani is the same in all respects. Radhakund is very rarely attained, even by great personalities fully engaged in devotional service, not to speak of ordinary devotees who are engaged in the practice of Vaidhi Bhakti. It is stated that a devotee will at once develop pure love of Krishna in the wake of the gopis if he once takes the bath in Radhakund. Srila Rupa Goswami recommends that even if one cannot live permanently on the banks of Radhakund, he should at least take a bath in the lake as many times as possible. This is the most important item in the execution of devotional service.
Definitely wonderful. All right, let's have I want to have Acharya to read the next two. Is that all right? First, I want to know if you have something to say about this case, Kelly.
No, thank you.
No, wait a minute. Aren't you going to buy your ticket now to go to Radhakund?
I was there and I didn't even know where I was. I was there once over a decade ago
Oh,
and I didn't even know where I was. So
well,
this is actually very
you were
interesting to read it.
there
Did you happen to take a dip in the Kund?
I did. And my beads that I chant on to,
Oh, so just see how it's working.
You're
yes.
chanting on the same beads that you dipped in Radhakan?
Yeah, but I had no idea what was going on.
You didn't have to
Doesn't
know.
matter. It's called the Gyanta Sukriti.
Yes.
You're still getting the benefit. Just see.
Oh,
It said
just
someone who bathes will take. Well, what did we read a few weeks ago? Nanda really liked that one quote where it said, "If one takes the
drag.
devotional service, yeah, be forcibly dragged back to Godhead." Oh, that's a wonderful story.
Good for you. Just like when you take vitamins and you don't know what it is, and all of a sudden, oh, you feel better. Good for you, girl. That's the way to go. Okay, Charya, thank you. Thank you for sharing that wonderful story. Charya, why don't you finish up for us? Are you there?
Maybe not.
Charya? He's gone again. All right. We're not going to wait for Acharya. Kelly, just finish this, please, for us.
Of all these devotees, the gopis are recognized as superior because they do not know anything other than satisfying Krishna, nor do the gopis expect any return from Krishna. Indeed, sometimes Krishna puts them into extreme suffering by separating himself from them. Nonetheless, they cannot forget Krishna. When Krishna left Vrindavana for Mathura, the gopis became most dejected and spent the rest of their lives simply crying in separation from Krishna. This means that in one sense, they were never actually separated from Krishna. There is no difference between thinking of Krishna and associating with him. Rather, Vipralamba Seva, thinking of Krishna in separation, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, is far better than serving Krishna directly. Thus, all of the devotees who have developed unalloyed devotional service with Krishna, the gopis, are the most exalted. And out of all the exalted gopis, Srimati Radharani is the highest. No one can excel the devotional service of Srimati Radharani. Indeed, even Krishna cannot understand the attitude of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, he took her position and appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just to understand her transcendental feelings. In this way, Srila Rupa Goswami gradually concludes that Srimati Radharani is the most exalted devotee of Krishna, and that her Kund, Sri Radha Kund, is the most exalted place.
Okay, wait, just leave this slide here. Do you know why this is? Who is Srimati Radharani?
Isn't she, well, Lord Chaitanya kind of came,
Who knows who Srimati Radharani is?
Bodhi Krishna's trying to answer.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, he
She's an
knows.
extension of Krishna, right?
Yes, Vladini Shakti. She's the pleasure-giving potency. She's not an ordinary living being. She is one of the three Shaktis of Sri Krishna. So that's a very important position, and therefore nobody can take that, just like nobody can take that position of Krishna because he's the supreme Godhead. So his internal potency, the pleasure-giving potency, the Bhakti Devi comes from Srimati Radharani. She's the greatest servant of Krishna because of her love.
Adi Leela chapter 4 of the Chaitanya Charitamrita gives a nice synopsis of that. It talks about the three internal potency of the Lord: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Sat means existence, Chit means knowledge, and Ananda means bliss. So the bliss potency, it's a potency, pleasure-giving potency, personified as a female to give the original Purusha or original male Krishna pleasure.
Okay. Well, I was going to have Madhurya Leela read the last slide, but she's not here. So Acharya, could you please read the last slide and then we can. There you go.
Yes.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yes, sorry, I've been fading in and out today. Continued. If by great fortune one gets an opportunity to come to Radha Kund and bathe even once, he can develop his transcendental love for Krishna exactly as the gopis did. It is also recommended that one should live on the banks of Radha Kund and should be absorbed in the loving service of the Lord. One should bathe there regularly and give up all material conceptions, taking shelter of Sri Radha and her assistant gopis. If one is thus constantly engaged during his lifetime, after giving up the body, he will return back to Godhead to serve Sri Radha in the same way as he contemplated during his life on the banks of Radha Kund. The conclusion is that to live on the banks of the Radha Kund and to bathe there daily constitute the highest perfection of devotional service. It is a difficult position to attain, even for great sages and devotees like Narada. Thus, there is no limit to the glory of Sri Radha Kund. By serving Radha Kund, one can get an opportunity to become an assistant of Srimati Radharani under the eternal guidance of the gopis.
You have to unmute, Sama.
Oh, I'm not.
Oh, you didn't say anything. Sorry.
No.
She's just stunned.
I was thinking final words of the whole Upadeshamrita. So wonderful.
Yeah, it's only, what is it, 12 verses?
11.
11 verses, but it's a real journey of through devotional service
That's a
from
fact.
beginning to end. I feel sort of compelled, just for the sake of saying it, that Prabhupada's ecstasy of glorifying Radha Kund here is amazing and beautiful and important. But I just feel like adding that at times he also did add cautions about it. Things like you should only go to Vrindavan for 3 days and then leave, because materialistic persons, if you go there and stay longer, you'll start committing offenses, which will hurt your devotional service. And also we have a preaching mission to accomplish, so we can't all just stay at Radha Kund, and the caution that it's, you know, it's the highest thing, but it's also a very risky is not the word, but if one's not really on the stage of really being able to do it properly and appreciate it properly, there's also risk of all sorts of deviations and mistakes and offenses.
Well, there are certainly different stages of devotional service, definitely. You know.
But at least if you, like he also said, if you can't live earlier, he said, if you can't live there, at least you should go there and bathe. So everyone can do that.
Fact. Wanted to include this book rather than just going from our previous Srimad Bhagavatam reading, because it sets a mood, it sets a foundation for our next studies. Now we finished the Govardhan Leela, we finished Indra's prayers, Surabhi and Airavata's bathing Krishna and him being crowned as Govinda, and then we read about being Nanda Maharaj being captured by Varuna, and finally Krishna showing all the residents of Vrindavan the spiritual world when they were wondering about his position. And that ended chapter 28. So again, in October, we'll pick up with chapter 29, and it'll be nice because it's in the autumn season. So we'll be able to use that as impetus to dive deeply into it. So again, I'll put the teachings of Lord Chaitanya details into a forum and on course materials the way we usually do. Everyone have a safe spiritual journey for the summer. If you want to get in touch or anything, we're always there by email or online. That course materials for forums or anything, please feel free to do that. Thank you very much for your association this whole time. It's wonderful having such steady devotees to read and study this wisdom with.
Thank you.
Vanchakalpatubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyacha, Patitanam Pavanabhyo, Vaishnavyo Namo. Hare Krishna. Nitai Gaur. Hare Krishna.
Nice to see you.
Before you go,
yeah.
wonderful observance tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yes, and also Mother's Day for the mothers there. So
Thank
happy
you.
Mother's Day and happy
Ah,
Chaturasi.
Thank
So
you.
thanks again for the sangha.
you
Have
too.
a wonderful
Hare Krishna.
Ah,
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hari
Hare Krishna.
Bol.
Hare Hare Bol.